SST hike does not involve water bill and 85% electricity users. PM welcome views to improve country's democracy process. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm SAHIH and you're watching Malaysia Tonight. The increase in the service tax rate from 6% to 8% only affects discretionary services activities and business-to-business activities. Second Finance Minister Datuk Sri Amir Hamzah Azizan said the specification is to ensure that the people are not burdened with higher consumption tax rates. According to the ministry, the increase in the service tax rate does not involve services that are basic necessities and part of the people's lifestyle. For electricity services, the service tax is only imposed on usage exceeding 600 kilowatt per hour. Nearly 85% of the electricity consumers in the country are below this threshold and thus are not affected. The service tax will also not be imposed on treated water services. Datuk Sri Amir Hamzah said to ensure a successful economic transformation, the government is taking a cautious approach in reforming the national tax system. Also not involved in SST hike are essential services such as food and beverages, parking, telecommunications and logistics. Malaysia and Uzbekistan have expressed their commitment to boost cooperation, specifically focusing on expanding trade, investment and strategic relationships. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim stated that this was among the topics discussed during the courtesy call by Uzbekistan's Foreign Minister Bakhtiyor Saidov this morning. Datuk Sri Anwar said in the meeting they discussed efforts to enhance Malaysia-Uzbekistan bilateral cooperation and on regional issues as well. At the same time, he said they also exchanged views on regional and international issues of mutual interest, including cooperation within the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation, the situation in Gaza, and developments in Afghanistan. The Premier believes the meeting will strengthen and further enhance cooperation between Malaysia and Uzbekistan. Saidov is currently on a 3-day official working visit to Malaysia, starting Tuesday, marking his first visit to the country as Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan. Last year, Uzbekistan became Malaysia's second largest trading partner in the Central Asian region. The total trade between the two nations amounted to 451.9 million ringgit, representing an increase of 30.9% compared to 2022. On another matter, Datuk Sri Anwar today received a memorandum from Bersih in Putrajaya by its leadership front, led by Muhammad Faisal Abdul Aziz. Datuk Sri Anwar in his official Facebook page said the unity government is open to any recommendations or propositions by Bersih, especially in improving election process and institutional reforms. The Prime Minister said several recommendations by Bersih have been paid attention to and some of it are already in consideration for further action by the government. He added dialogue as well, as view exchange spaces are important to understand the civil society aspiration and challenges that may be faced by the government, especially pertaining to issues addressed in the memorandum. An inclusive approach such as taking points from views upheld by civil society such as Bersih is hoped to boost synergy between these societies with the government. Aside from that, Datuk Sri Anwar also stressed on the importance of political education and improving country's political literacy for the betterment of Malaysia's political landscape. The introduction of a new policy to empower the bumiputra economy through land resources is crucial, especially to take advantage of the vast and fertile land in Malaysia. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the policy needs to be implemented aggressively and collectively to support agricultural transformation initiatives to increase food security, create a just transition of the bumiputra economy and use of land to drive a high-impact cyclical economy. He said this includes reforming the existing Land Act to reduce restrictions on land use, introducing a carbon tax and establishing a certification agency to stimulate carbon trading activities at the ASEAN level. These measures are expected to reduce the economic gap between urban and rural bumiputra communities, create a sustainable cyclical economy through sustainable development, and make Malaysia a leader in the cyclical economy and carbon trading at the ASEAN level. In developing the bumiputra economy, Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid said emphasis should be on new technologies such as digitalization in the agricultural sector, the use of renewable energy technology and carbon reduction mechanisms. The onion cultivation program, which will be implemented in phases starting this year until 2030, is expected to reduce the country's onion imports by 30%. Agriculture and Food Security Minister Datuk Seri Mohammad Sabu said the program would be implemented in two phases, namely the pre-commercial phase from this year to next year, followed by the commercial phase from 2026 to 2030. He explained that the pre-commercial phase aims to assess the viability of small red onion cultivation in Malaysia, with the Malaysian Agricultural Research and Development Institute (MARDI) supplying 70 tons of small onion seeds and 230 kilograms of small red onion seeds.
Bagi program penanaman, seluas 100 hektar kawasan penanaman bawang akan dibangunkan, iaitu 50 hektar 2024 dan 50 hektar pada tahun 2025 dengan jangkaan hasil pengeluaran sebanyak 5 tan metrik per hektar. Penanaman bawang ini boleh dilaksanakan sebanyak 2 kali setahun. Dijangkakan pengeluaran bawang bagi fasa ini adalah sebanyak 1,000 tan metrik.
Datuk Seri Mohammad Sabu said the commercial phase of the program would involve the development of a 1,347 hectare area with an expected onion yield of 14,470 tons. The program would only involve the cultivation of small red onions, as MARDI has yet to discover suitable varieties of onions and garlic for planting in Malaysia. The government will be appointing another 6,000 medical officers to permanent positions throughout 2024 and 2025. Speaking in Dewan Rakyat today, Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad said that between 2019 and 2023, the government had already appointed a total of 9,822 medical officers to permanent positions.
Setelah mereka melalui housemanship, mereka adalah dengan gaji permulaan RM5,197, ya, RM5,157, yang jauh lebih tinggi daripada apapun skim-skim perkhidmatan awam yang lain, termasuklah PTD. Kedua, kita telah juga meningkatkan pelantikan tetap seramai 9,822 dalam tahun 2019 ke 2023 dan telah pun meningkatkan jumlah itu, dan kita meramalkan akan meningkatkan kepada 6,000 pelantikan tetap dalam tempoh 2024 hingga 2025.
He added the government has implemented other initiatives to ensure medical officers stay in the public sector. This includes on-call allowance for services rendered after office hours at clinics and hospital emergency departments at the rate of RM80 per hour. The government also provides incentives for specialized studies through facilities such as full paid study leave with federal training allowance and the skill training program. Coming up in business, MITI presented proposal for one-time subsidy for EV ownership. Stay tuned. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today received a courtesy visit from the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Grab Holdings Incorporated, Anthony Tan. Tan was accompanied by Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tunku Abdul Aziz. In a post on Facebook, Datuk Seri Anwar said he was briefed on Grab's potential investments in Malaysia during the meeting. He said this is related to businesses such as Grab and Jaya Grocer. In addition, he said the operation of GX Bank is expected to involve an investment of 1.5 billion ringgit for the next 5 years. GX Bank Berhad is a digital bank in Malaysia through a joint venture between Grab Holdings Limited and Singapore Telecommunications Limited. Commenting further, he said they had also discussed how Grab can grow with a business model that also helps Malaysian communities and businesses in increasing opportunities to generate income. The Premier hopes that Tan's tenacity will be an inspiration to other Malaysians, especially those who are interested in venturing into the field of technology entrepreneurship. The proposal to mandate the purchase of 70% Halal and Bumiputra products for official government programs will be presented at the upcoming Bumiputra Economic Congress KEB 2024. Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zaid Hamidi said this is one of the resolutions to further empower the halal industry. The Deputy Premier said another resolution to be presented was to implement the Halal Business Transformation Program through availability assessment activities and business guidance. The proposed implementation of the Homegrown Halal Champion Program, which involve vendor development activities and business coaching in collaboration with multinational firms, would also be presented. This program includes expanding the policy of 30% inclusion of Bumiputra entrepreneurs' products in the modern retail sector, involving large supermarkets, mini-markets and local supermarkets. The resolutions were the result of the recent KEB 2024 engagement session, which aimed at empowering the halal industry to position Malaysia as a global leader in the halal economy. KEB 2024, Team Positive, Progressive, Innovative, will be held at the Putrajaya International Convention Centre for 3 days beginning tomorrow. The exports of 9 states rose in January, contributing to an 8.7% or 9.8 billion ringgit increase in Malaysia's total exports to 122.43 billion ringgit. The increase was attributed to higher exports in the states of Johor, Selangor, Kedah, Sarawak, Perak, Pahang, Terengganu, Kuala Lumpur and Kelantan. However, Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir Mahidin said exports decreased in Pulau Pinang, Labuan, Sabah, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan and Perlis. He said Pulau Pinang, however, remained the top exporter with a 28.2% share, followed by Johor 22.4%, Selangor 18%, Sarawak 8.7% and Kuala Lumpur 4.5%. Meanwhile, total imports for the country rose by 18.8% to 112.3 billion ringgit. Looking at the performance of imports by state, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzir said imports in January increased 17.8 billion ringgit compared to the same month last year. The increase in import was attributed by higher imports in most states such as Johor, Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Pulau Pinang. However, imports decreased in Sarawak, Labuan and Perak. Selangor continued to dominate Malaysia's imports with a share of 26.4%, followed by Johor 23.7%, Pulau Pinang 19.1%, Kuala Lumpur 8.8% and Kedah 5.6%. The Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, MITI, has presented a proposal for a one-time subsidy for electric vehicle EV ownership to boost the growth of the industry in the country. Deputy Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Liu Chin Tong said the proposal was presented to the Ministry of Finance during the National EV Steering Committee meeting. Liu said it has been observed that the one-time subsidy can encourage people to switch from using internal combustion engine vehicles to EVs and further help the country reduce petrol subsidies for the long term. Last year, the annual sales volume of new battery EVs in the country increased by over 400% to 13,257 units compared to 3,127 units in 2022.
Sehingga 31 Disember 2023, sejumlah 2,020 unit pengecas telah dipasang di 750 lokasi di seluruh negara, di mana 1,591 unit adalah jenis AC dan baki 429 unit adalah jenis DC atau fast charger.
Liu said the proposal to review the target of 10,000 EV charging stations was also raised in the National EV Steering Committee meeting, and the ministry, together with related agencies such as the Malaysia Automotive Robotics, are studying and fine-tuning the need to increase the direct current charging stations target. Malayan banking berhad Maybank posted a higher net profit of 9.35 billion ringgit and increased by 17.5% for the financial year ended 31st December 2023, FY 2023, compared to 7.96 billion ringgit in FY 2022. Revenue grew to 64.47 billion ringgit from 49.42 billion ringgit previously. As for the fourth quarter of last year, the bank posted a net profit of 2.39 billion ringgit from 2.21 billion ringgit in the same quarter of 2022, while revenue rose to 17.13 billion ringgit from 15.03 billion ringgit previously. However, it noted that the group's net interest income and Islamic banking income for FY 2023 decreased by 860.7 million ringgit or 4.1% to 20.37 billion ringgit as compared to FY 2022. Maybank also shared that its insurance or takaful service result grew by 338.4 million ringgit to 550.1 million ringgit for FY 2023 compared to FY 2022. Other operating income of the group for FY 2023 was 7.99 billion ringgit, an increase of 73.5% from 4.60 billion ringgit in FY 2022. The increase was mainly due to lower unrealized market-to-market loss on revaluation of derivatives of 2.4 billion ringgit, higher foreign exchange gain of 1.17 billion ringgit, and net investment income of 319.9 million ringgit. The West Asia and North Africa region has remained a key export market for Malaysian palm oil, with exports at 2.42 million tonnes or 16% of the nation's total palm oil exports last year. The region has a population of more than 500 million, and its oils and fats consumption stood at 15 million tonnes, of which 87% is met through imports. Malaysian Palm Oil Council MPOC Chief Executive Officer Balvindan Kaur Sron said palm oil accounted for 30% of the total oils and fats consumption in the region, presenting a significant opportunity for Malaysian exports. As part of its efforts to expand exports of Malaysian palm oil and related products to the region, the MPOC is hosting a delegation of 18 prominent industry representatives from oils and fat companies in Egypt, Turkey and Algeria as part of its trade and networking visit for the Region Buyers Program. During the 3-day visit, members of the delegation will be provided with comprehensive insights into the Malaysian palm oil sector, including information on the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil Certification. They will also have the opportunity to visit an oil palm plantation and packaging plant to witness the various processes involved in the palm oil production supply chain. The Malaysia Gold Association (MGA) is predicting gold price to increase to $2,200 per troy ounce this year from $2,030 currently, amid an increasing demand for the metal. MGA President Dato' Louis Ng explained that the rising gold demand is due to central banks buying gold as a hedge against currencies. According to Dato' Louis, the gold is used not only by the central banks but also the retailers due to economic uncertainty. He further explained that another factor for the very high demand for gold is the conflict in West Asia as well as the Russian-Ukraine war. On the high value good tax, Dato' Louis asked the government to set a reasonable price threshold of 50,000 ringgit for jewellery with a tax rate of 5%. He noted that the jewellery industry is very important for Malaysian market with the existence of thousands of jewellery shops and factories. He said if the threshold is not set right, it would give huge impact on the industry such as job losses. Hong Kong recorded a 12.98 billion US dollars deficit in 2023-2024, with fiscal reserve falling to 93.68 billion due to challenges posed by the epidemic and external environment. The city's finance minister Paul Chan says the weak housing market has also impacted public finances, with the Hong Kong government heavily reliant on land sales for revenue but only gaining $2.48 billion last year. To revive the depressed housing market, Hong Kong has axed three major property transaction taxes. The finance hub's economy was initially buoyed by China's post-pandemic reopening, but recovery has since slowed and residential property prices are at a multi-year low. Chan said Hong Kong would scrap three types of stamp duty with immediate effect, reversing measures introduced more than a decade ago to curb speculation and rein in sky-high property prices. The cancelled taxes include stamp duty of 15% of the property price imposed on buyers who are not Hong Kong permanent residents and 7.5% on those purchasing a second home. Hong Kong has long been among the world's least affordable residential markets, but property prices have retreated. The city was boosted by China's post-pandemic reopening, but those gains were wiped out as the nation's economic recovery fizzled and interest rates continued to rise. On foreign front, two hopeful mayor candidates shot dead, that and more right after this. Gunmen have killed two aspiring candidates to be mayor of the same Mexican city, underlining the dangers of running for office in the violence-plagued Latin American nation. Mexican politicians, particularly at the local level, frequently fall victim to bloodshed connected to corruption and the multi-billion-dollar narcotics trade. On Monday, two mayoral hopefuls were murdered on the same day in Marivatio, in the western state of Michoacan, one of Mexico's most violent regions. Miguel Angel Reyes Zavala, who aspired to be the candidate of President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's Morena party, was shot dead in his vehicle outside the clinic where he worked. According to the testimonies collected by investigators, two hitmen opened fire at point-blank range before fleeing in a car. Hours later, Armando Perez Luna, who hoped to represent the opposition National Action Party, PAN, was found dead in a car with gunshot wounds. PAN condemned the cowardly murders of the politicians and said that it had warned months ago of the need to step up security in the region. Since last June, more than 30 people have been murdered in election-related violence in Mexico, of whom 16 were aspiring candidates. Mexico has recorded more than 420,000 murders since launching a controversial anti-drug military operation in 2006, most of them blamed on fighting between criminals. The country will hold presidential and legislative and local elections on 2nd June. The former boss of a feared Colombian paramilitary group arrived back in the country on Tuesday after serving a 16-year jail term in the United States and will participate in the country's ongoing peace process with armed groups. Salvatore Mancuso, 59, was deported to Colombia after completing his sentence for conspiracy to traffic cocaine. Colombia's migration agency said on social media that Mancuso had arrived on a deportation flight and was handed over to police. Last year, leftist President Gustavo Petro asked that he be extradited after finishing his sentence so that he could serve as a peace manager in the government's negotiations with various armed groups in the South American nation. Fernando Garcia, the director of migration in Colombia, welcomed Mancuso based on his commitment to peace, reconciliation and non-repetition of his crimes. Colombian-Italian Mancuso was the leader of the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, AUC, which laid down arms in 2006, confessed to crimes and agreed to compensate victims. He still has to answer to the Colombian justice system for hundreds of disappearances and homicides committed by the AUC and association of right-wing paramilitaries that fought against leftist guerrillas. His lawyers say he will be detained at police facility. However, he could be released at Petro's request to take up as yet undefined job in the peace process. Since his election in 2022, Petro has sought to put an end to 6 decades of fighting that has drawn in the country's security forces, guerrillas, right-wing paramilitaries and drug gangs. Tens of thousands of residents in Australia's southeast were told to evacuate today due to an intense heat wave that authorities said could further spread a massive bushfire in Victoria State, which faces its worst conditions in 4 years. Extreme fire ratings have been issued for large parts of Victoria, with the Wimmera region in the west given a catastrophic ranking, the top warning level. The country's Bureau of Meteorology said Mildura, a rural city of about 56,000 residents, could touch 45 degrees Celsius. A potential fire impact zone that covers several rural towns has been identified as official, urged around 30,000 residents there to leave their homes by Wednesday morning. A heatwave is set to sweep in from Australia's outback interior, moving across Victoria before likely shifting east to the state of New South Wales tomorrow. Total fire bans are in place across several cities, including Melbourne. Hundreds of firefighters were still battling a massive blaze near the city of Ballarat, 95 km west of Melbourne. The fire, burning since last Thursday, has already destroyed 6 homes, killed livestock and burned more than 20,000 hectares. Moving on to our sports stories, Japan and North Korea held training sessions on Tuesday ahead of their crucial final qualifying match for the women's football tournament at the Paris Olympics. The two sides drew 0-0 in the first leg of their qualifier. The winner of today's match at Japan National Stadium will earn one of Asia's 2 berths in the 12-team finals in Paris in the summer. It was the first trip to Japan by North Korea's national football team since 2017. North Koreans are barred from entering Japan due to sanctions over Pyongyang weapon programs, but athletes participating in international sporting events are allowed an exception. The first leg was played in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, after the Japan Football Association requested a change of venue due to problems travelling to North Korea. North Korea returned to international football at last year's Asian Games for the first time since before the coronavirus pandemic and lost 4-1 to Japan in the final in Hangzhou. They have qualified for the Olympics twice before, with their most recent appearance coming at the 2012 London Games. Japan won the silver medal at the year's tournament, but they missed out on qualification for the Rio Games 4 years later. They were eliminated in the quarterfinals at the pandemic-postponed Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Battered but still skimming the wave, French sailor Charles Caudrelier crossed the line in Brest in the west of France on Tuesday to win the All-Team Challenge, the first solo round the world race for multi-hull boats. Caudrelier and the trimaran Gaetana and Mont de Rothschild outdistanced the other survivors from 6-boat fleet as he covered more than 51,000 kilometers in 50 days. He became just the 8th sailor to sail around the world in a multi-hull. The boat, launched in 2017, was the first all-team designed to fly by rising out of the water on her foils as the boat swept down the Atlantic and then circled the globe, passing south of the Cape of Good Hope, Cape Lewin in Australia, and finally Cape Horn. Tom Lepage in SVR Lazartique retired after dueling at the front with Caudrelier for 20 days. The two sailors closest to Caudrelier both lost time when their boats suffered damage, forcing them to make stopovers. Thomas Coville, who was running second in Sodibo, the boat in which in 2016 he became one of 4 sailors to complete a solo non-stop circumnavigation in a multi-hull. Amel Leclerc in Banquic Populaire was lying third. Caudrelier had enough of a lead to take that he was able to play safe and delay his arrival in Brest. With a storm threatening as he neared home, Caudrelier took shelter for 3 days in the Azores before sailing for home on Monday, his 50th birthday, and arriving on Tuesday morning. And that wraps up our Malaysia Tonight. A recap of our top story this evening. SST hike does not involve water bill and 85% electricity users. Do join us tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 p.m. on TV2 and Saluran Berita RTM for your daily world updates. Till then, I'm SAHIH from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Goodbye and good night.